DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us out there, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into one bundle package mindset philosophy framework. We wrote a book on the subject, and you're listening to the daily masterclass that is all under one umbrella that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Welcome to the show. Today's topic is the market determines your value. Now, before we get into introducing this episode, I want to remind everyone that I have a texting line where you can send me a text. Yes, me a text. And tell me the most valuable thing you got from this episode, the best insight, something that you got reminded of, that you knew about but hadn't thought about or actually implemented in a while. Send me a text at 305-384-6894. Once again, that number is 305-384-6894. Normal text messaging rates apply and all that legal mumbo jumbo. Again, send me a text as you listen to this episode, the best thing you get from it. The topic again, the market determining your value. You know, I see people all the time, and I hear from people often who talk about, and actually a recent thing that I've heard being talked about in early 2020 is not a new thing, but I guess it's gotten brought up again, and maybe it'll happen. Maybe by the time you hear this, it's already happened, that the minimum wage is going to get raised. Or I hear people say something like, I know my worth and I know my value, when they don't seem to be getting it. They're not getting whatever that number is. They think their worth is $8, but they're only getting $4. And they say, well, you know, I should be getting more. I don't feel like I'm getting what I should be getting. And nowadays I see politicians and people talking about, and workers saying things like, well, the minimum wage needs to be raised. You know, I need to get a livable minimum wage. There's not enough money for people to live on, or people should be making more. Companies should be willing to pay. And even people saying, well, if a company can't afford to pay this much as the minimum wage, which is more than what it is now, then they shouldn't be in business and things like that. And listen, I'm not here to argue the economics of it. Actually, this kind of is economics, but this is more on the value side of things, not the actual numbers. This is not the mathematics part of it. This is about the value side. And people talk about why it should be raised because it will help people, or if you're in business, you should be able to afford it, and or that people who work deserve, quote unquote, deserve to make a certain amount. Now, any of you who is familiar with me and my work knows that when we get to this whole deserving thing, I got a whole other set of beliefs and opinions about that. Being that I am a capitalist, and if you live in America, hopefully you're a capitalist, because that is the society that we're in. Actually, I shouldn't say hopefully, because nowadays we got people who are actually trying to change that and make it into something different. A lot of them don't actually admit it, but that seems to be what they're doing. I personally reject the concept of anyone, quote, deserving, close quote, something that they haven't earned. I completely reject that concept. But I just told you 2 days ago about how identity politics is going against people like me who reject it, and they're pushing it forward anyway. And I understand this is part of the game. So I do understand when I'm in certain areas of the game and when I'm in other areas. But right now on this mic, all right, I'm in my area of the game. All right, this is my game. This is my domain. So I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. Now, I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to give you every side of it, but you're still going to understand what the hell is going on, okay, and why it's going on. Every one of us is in business. I tell you this all the time. If you are alive, you are in business. It costs money for you to be born. Somebody had to pay the doctor and the medical bills. It costs money for you to live. All right, the electricity, the phone that you're listening to me on right now, the Wi-Fi, the clothes that you have on, the food that you ate and are going to eat, all of that stuff costs money, and it costs money for you to die. Any of you ever been involved in somebody's funeral and burial? Was that casket free? Was the funeral service free? None of that was free. All right, the suit that person got buried in wasn't free. All right, so everything costs money to be born, to die, and everything in between. So we are all in business. Your personal worth is determined not by the government, at least not in the United States. So we'll just use the United States here as my litmus here. Your worth is not determined by the government. Hell no, not by the government. And is not totally determined by you. You play a huge role in it, but you don't totally determine your value. Today, what we're going to talk about is where that value actually comes from and what you can do about it now that you actually know what the game really is. Because many people seem to think that the game is something other than what it actually is, but that's why we got this show here, so I can set you straight and make sure you're walking into the world with the right information, not going into the world with this naivete, thinking that things are one way when they're actually another way. Point number one. Topic, once again, is the market determines your value. Number one, your value is what you accept. Now, I mean this in a numbers sense, meaning how much money you make. I also mean this in a personal value sense, meaning what you accept and tolerate in your life. And I mean this in every other way in between those two poles. What you accept is your value. So if you're in a relationship with an asshole and you know they're an asshole, you have identified that they're an asshole, yet you stay in a relationship, then that is your value because you are tolerating that. You're allowing that to stay around. That's why you're where you are. If you have a job and someone offers you $10 an hour and you accept the job at $10 an hour, your value is not 15 or 20. Your value is 10 because you accepted the 10. Now, if you think your value is 15, then you don't accept anything less than 15. That's the way the game goes. If you think your value is more than what you are getting, then you don't accept anything less. If you accept anything less, then what you think is completely different from what you believe. Now there's an incongruency there, and now you got a personal issue. Your value is what you accept, everybody. This applies to anyone and everyone in life. In episode number 915, I told you the only 3 ways anyone makes money. Level 1 is you accept what is offered to you. Level 2 is you negotiate, meaning they offer you something, you come back with a counter offer, y'all go back and forth, and y'all find somewhere in between, some type of compromise. And level 3 is you make a demand. You say, this is what it is, you take it or you leave it. You got to decide which level you want to be at. And there is work involved in ascending from one level to the next to the next. Even to get to level 1, there's a little bit of work. You got to have something to offer. If you accept $1, in the moment of you accepting that $1, your value is $1. If you cannot negotiate or demand $2, you're not worth $2. You're worth $1 because you accepted $1. Again, if you're in a relationship with an ass and you stay in that relationship, then that's what you're worth because you stayed there. Now, as soon as you leave, all right, you have changed the conversation. Now it's a different situation. But as long as you're there, you're accepting this, you're tolerating it, you're there. There was one of people in one of my business masterminds. He said this one time. I don't remember exactly what the topic was. People were just venting about their business and how this employee was doing this and this person I hired, they were messing up and this thing was going on over here. There was all these different things going on in people's businesses, and that's what was happening. People were kind of bitching and sharing their challenges in their business on this particular day. And this guy, he's an older guy, veteran businessman, and this is what he stepped up and said. He said, the entrepreneur who has a $1 billion company, billion with a B as in basketball, that person does not tolerate the same things as an entrepreneur who has a $1 million company. Million is in Monday. Million with an M is in Monday. And the person who has a $1 million company does not tolerate or accept the same things as the person who has a $100,000 company. And the person with a $100,000 company does not accept the same things as the person starting out with a $10,000 company. In other words, the higher the level, now I'm out of the example. He only gave one example. He said the $1 billion company to the $1 million, but all the rest of it was added by me. Now I'm out of that example. In other words, what I want you to understand is that as you ascend from one level to the next in life, as you go up and you get better and you move up from one level to the next, again, meaning that you're improving, you tolerate less. You accept less. And I don't mean you accept less as in you go from $2 to $1, meaning if you accepted $1 at level 1, you don't accept $1 at level 3. If you accepted $5 at level 3, you don't accept $5 at level 7. Every level that you go up, what you expect of yourself and what you are willing to accept has increased. And as far as your tolerance and the things that you accept, meaning you don't tolerate or accept as much bullshit, is what I mean when I say less. I'm talking about the negative things. So you don't accept somebody bullshitting you around about money that they owe when you're running $1 million company the same way you would when you're running a $100,000 company. Or you don't accept the same bullshit in a level 10 relationship as you did in a level 6 relationship. Why? Because you went up to another level. So if we reverse engineer this, read between the lines here, if you want to go from the level that you're at now today to a higher level, here's what you need to do. Stop tolerating the things that you're tolerating right now. Stop accepting them. Make a decision that this is no longer acceptable. Eliminate it if you need to eliminate it. Have a conversation, and maybe people, places, and things will change and come up with you. They will level up with you. If they're not willing to, you have to have the heart. You have to have the mental toughness and the confidence to let go of those things so that you can move on. You have to be willing to let go to move on. And if you're not willing to let go of the nonsense that you are tolerating today, then you are also unqualified to move on to the next level tomorrow. That's the deal. That's the game. And I know many people wouldn't tell you this. Again, that's why I have this show. Because there's certain things I'm going to tell you that other people won't tell you. They won't tell you in as clear and direct way as I'll tell you. They'll tell you in a roundabout way, but we don't do roundabout here. We give it to you straight. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the market determines your value. And as I just explained to you here in point number 1, before I even get into point number 2, everything I said there in point number 1 was really about you. It wasn't about the market, it was about you. But understand something. How the market sees you starts with how you see you. So that's why I set the table with what I said there in point number 1. And I told you in episode number 779, your personal brand is what the internet says about you, but it's really what the internet says about you. They can only go off of what you're saying about yourself. Because if you didn't say it, the internet couldn't grab it. Or you're like, well, somebody else will say something about me, Dre. Well, nobody else will say anything about you until you put yourself out there in the first place. So what can they say about you? Only what you've said about you. If you say enough about yourself, you will dominate the conversation of what the internet says about you. That becomes your brand. So ostensibly, your brand is what you say about yourself. And the market determining your value is really based on you deciding what you're willing to accept and what you're willing to tolerate. The less bullshit you're willing to tolerate, the higher your value will go. And the more you're willing to demand what you want, the higher your value will go. Because you're willing to demand it, you get it. But if you keep accepting less than what you want, then hey, your value is always going to be less than what you think it should be. This is the way the game works, folks. Point number 2 here, when you want more, you got to go get it. As I just explained in point number 1. What does that mean, Dre? What do you mean I got to go get it when I want more? That means work on your fucking game. That means increase your value. I got a course called Raise Your Value, which you can get when you start the Bulletproof Mindset course. We'll give it to you free as a bonus. Go find new people. If the people you're working with right now are not giving you the return investment that you want, stop working with them and go work with somebody else. Now, again, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to live in that void, in that space between the people that you don't want anymore and getting to the people that you do want? There may be a period there where you don't have anything. You're empty. Are you willing to deal with that? A lot of people are not willing to deal with that, so they hold on to the lesser because they're afraid that they won't get better. We talked about this in episode number, let me see what episode that was, if I can find it. I'll tell you in a moment when I find it. I have to type it. I'm trying to type as I'm talking at the same time to find that episode, but I'll tell you in a moment. A lot of times in life, people hold on to the okay, or they hold on to the mediocrity out of the fear that they won't get anything better. It's episode number 1207. Do not settle for good enough out of fear that you won't find better. Again, episode 1207. And you can listen to these episodes if you just go to workonyourgamepodcast.com or go to dreallday.com and just in the search bar, top right corner, there's a search little magnifying glass, and just type in the number of the episode. It'll come up right there. Finding new people, finding new associations, getting around a different group of individuals will raise your value. But in the period between losing the old individuals and getting around the new individuals, you're going to be by yourself. Are you afraid of being by yourself during that period? Because if you are, you will never level up to a new level. Never. Change your offering. Maybe you could keep dealing with the same people. You just need to offer them something different than what you're offering right now. That's why you're not getting the results that you want. Invest in your presentation. Invest in your reach. These are all things that you can do to get more than what you're getting right now. And notice that all of these are actions, but they may start with your being. You have to change the way you see yourself in order to do different actions. Can we all agree? So when I say the be, do, have principle, some people think that's more, mindset and woo-woo thing. And yes, it is mindset, and you can call it whatever you want to call it. But understand, in order for you to take different actions, the first thing that needs to happen is you need to see yourself as a different type of person. Many times people don't take different actions, not because they're unaware of the possibility of the actions, but because they don't see themselves as the type of person who can take those actions. When you change that, i.e. your being, then the doing becomes easy. True or not true? If you need help with this, first of all, go to mirrorofmotivation.com and get the free book, The Mirror of Motivation. Then the next step is you to take the Bulletproof Mindset course, which you can get at workonmygame.com/bulletproof. Then the next step is for you to work with me one-on-one. And the whole time you can listen to the show every single day. So we got it all laid out for you. Just a question of, are you willing to take that step as far as you go personally? Some people are, not everybody is. We got to be honest here. The question is, are you? Not about everybody else. All these things that I just laid out are things you can do to have more of what you want. If you're waiting for it to be handed to you, there are a couple issues with waiting for things to be handed to you. One issue is that it may never happen. Second issue is that if it does get handed to you, that means whoever handed it to you can take it from you. And the third issue is you may not make the cut. Meaning, let's say, for example, with this whole minimum wage situation, when the minimum wage gets raised, what happens is a lot of companies, instead of just paying everybody more money, they just fire people so they don't have to spend as much money on wages. All right, if I have 2 employees and I'm paying them each $1 a day, and now somebody tells me, well, now the new minimum wage is $5 a day. So my daily expenses for a salary used to be $2, $1 to 2 different people. Now you're telling me my daily expenses need to be $10, $5 to each of 2 different people. But what if I can't afford that? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna fire one person and just keep one of them. So now my expenses are only $5 a day. It was 2, it went up to 5, which is still an increase, but at least it's not going up so much. Now it's going up a little bit less. Now we pay $5 a day. So what happens actually when the minimum wage gets raised, just as an example, is that people get fired. Everybody doesn't just all of a sudden get more money. What happens is people lose their jobs. So when that handout comes of your value being arbitrarily increased through something like the minimum wage, what actually happens is your value actually gets even lower because now nobody wants you because you're not worth what the minimum has to be. You follow what happens? That's what happens actually. Nobody really talks about that though. But I just told you. Raising the minimum wage will cost people their jobs. Money does not come out of thin air, even though the government can technically print it. They don't just go print it just to print it. If they did, everybody would just be a billionaire. The thing is, people wouldn't be happy because everybody had the same amount. It's the competition that makes people feel better about what they have, not the absolute number. There have been studies done on this. All that being said, rounding up here, point number 2. If you are waiting for something like someone to say, hey, you should just get more just because, i.e. the minimum wage going up so you can make more money, you need to take a hard look at the value that you're bringing to the world, to your job, to your industry, to whatever. You need to take a hard look at yourself in the mirror, not out the window, but in the mirror. I did an episode which was number 1153, the mirror and the window. This is the concept of leadership. Leaders look in the mirror, whereas followers look out the window. People who are waiting for a handout are looking out the window, whereas leaders, people who are self-determined, people who make things happen, people who step into power in their lives, they look in the mirror. What can I do? So if you are waiting for some arbitrary decision to increase your value, you need to take a hard look in the mirror because you're waiting for the floor to be raised. My question is, if you're waiting for the floor to be raised, what were you doing on the floor in the first place? What are you doing in the basement? You're waiting for the basement to get raised up so that you can get more? No, what you need to do is get your ass out of the basement so that you don't need the basement to be raised for you to get more value or to be worth more than you are right now. Again, it starts with the way you see yourself, not with what you're doing, damn sure not with what anybody else does, but how you see you. If you don't have the mirror of motivation, that book is the framework for you to actually do that. Go to mirrorofmotivation.com and stop playing around with your life. Point number 3. The topic once again today is the market determines your value. Kind of. Number 3, building value is work. All right, everything that I've talked about here so far today, this is work. I'm not here to tell you that this automatically happens just you snapped your fingers like abracadabra and all of a sudden you're worth more. You had to do the work. I mean, this show is called Work on Your Game. So I don't think anybody listens to this show thinking that I'm going to tell you how to get success in life without doing any work. I don't think anybody expected that. Here's the good news about the work that you have to do to build your value is that you can do it all. All right, you're capable of doing all of this work. None of this is impossible work. Show up every day, do the work. Put your work out there boldly and authentically. Keep showing up and putting that work out, even when the work is not working yet. Go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Try different things out. Experiment. I have many episodes on value here on this show. I got so many episodes on value, I can't even list them all to you. I told you about in episode 934. Stop measuring your value by what other people say. Where at the same time, your value is created by what you say about yourself, not what everybody else says about you. Episode 869, the value of assessing your failures. Episode 434, determining the retail value of yourself in your life and in your business. Episode 363, how to increase your personal value in the business world. Episode number 253, we talked about personal value again, the how and the why of personal value. Episode 173, giving value. What does it actually mean to give value to another person? Episode 1764, this is a couple days ago, the truth about how to extract value from your life. Episode 762, how to get maximum value from the people that you work with. So many times we talked about value here on the show, and we talked about money specifically. This is work. Because if it was easy to do, you can fill in the rest of that sentence, everybody would be doing it. When handouts raise your value, a lack of handouts can just as easily take it away. So that's not the game that you want to be playing. You're not even playing in the game. You're a pawn in that game. You're not playing. They're playing you. Or you won't be in that game. How about we play a different game? And I propose that to you here today. Recapping today's class, which is the market determines your value. When I saw this topic about the minimum wage, why it should be raised to help people out or give it to people who, quote, deserve it, close quote of it, close quote, I did not agree to that. I reject the concept of anybody deserving something that they haven't yet earned. If somebody's handing you something because they think you deserve it, then you don't actually deserve it. Because if you deserve it, you have it already. So let's talk about what exactly I mean. Number one, your value equals what you accept. You want your value to be higher, stop accepting lesser. That's a simple enough concept, right? Listen to episode number 915, where I talked about the only 3 ways anybody makes money. You accept, you demand, you negotiate, or you demand. That's it. If you can't negotiate or demand $2, you are not worth $2. Number 2, when you want more, you have to go get it. Meaning working on your game, increasing your value, find new buyers, changing your offers, investing in your presentation, build new relationships. All of these are things you can do to get more than what you are currently getting. If you're waiting for it to be handed to you, 3 problems is it may never happen. If it was handed to you, it can be taken from you, and you might not make the cut. Those things get handed out. Maybe they're not enough to go around for you to get some. You don't consider that when people are telling you the yellow brick road story of how they're going to give you more value. They don't tell you that you might not even catch any because it might be all gone by the time they get around to you. You're waiting on the floor to be raised. My question is, what are you doing on the floor? Why are you in the basement in the first place? Number 3, building value is work. The good news is you can do all this work. I'm not telling you anything that you're not capable of doing. Showing up every day, doing the work, putting your stuff out there boldly and authentically, continuing to show up even when it hasn't worked yet, making things happen instead of waiting, trying things out. We talked about value so many episodes here on the show. When a handout raises your value, a lack of handout deletes your value. You do not want your value to be controlled by somebody else playing you as a pawn in the game. You want to be the person controlling the chessboard, and that starts with the way that you see yourself. When you change how you see yourself, your actions change. When your actions change, your results change, and that's why the show is called Work on Your Game. Tell me the most valuable thing you got from today's episode. Send me a text message, 305-384-6894. And if you got value from what I talked about today and you do not own this book called The Mirror of Motivation, if you're on video, you see me holding it up, go to mirrorofmotivation.com. The link is down below in the description of this episode, mirrorofmotivation.com. Everybody who listens to this show should have a copy of this book. We have not shipped 3 million copies of the book. We got more than 3 million listens to the show, which means we got more work to do. Go get this book, mirrorofmotivation.com, and work on your game. Dre all day.